Three men in black tactical vests stormed into my grandfather's yard and slapped him across the face live on camera just because he refused to hand over his property deeds. The sound of that slap cracked through the live stream like a gunshot, and within minutes, thousands of strangers were watching an 82-year-old veteran bleed from his mouth. But what those imposters didn't realize was that my grandfather wasn't just any old man, and the people standing behind him weren't the type you ever wanted to mess with. My name is Logan Graves. I was 7,000 miles away, stuck in Afghanistan, finishing my last deployment when this nightmare unfolded in real time. Every Monday morning, at exactly 9:15, my grandpa Walter would fire up his laptop on the porch of his lakeside cabin in Montana and talk to a tiny audience about the old days. His coffee chats rarely pulled more than 70 viewers, mostly other retirees. That morning, I tuned in on my phone during lunch break expecting the usual ramble about fishing or old war buddies. Instead, I watched my grandfather's front door rattling under the fists of men who called themselves HOA police. They wore fake badges, carried clipboards, and barked out violations like they were reading from a bad script. The leader, Frank Morrison, had a scar running down his chin and a thick Texas drawl. His partner, Kyle Brennan, was sweating under his sunglasses, clutching a clipboard like it was a weapon. The third one, Rick Sullivan, pointed a small camera at everything like he was making a training video. They demanded paperwork, shouted about landscaping, parking, and unauthorized construction. Grandpa listened patiently, cane in hand, then told them flat out, "I've been here 40 years. There's no HOA that owns me. Now get off my land." Frank stepped closer, veins pulsing in his neck, and said the words that froze me. "Hand over your property deeds or we'll confiscate them." When Grandpa refused, Frank's face twisted and he reared back, then slapped my grandfather so hard across the mouth that he staggered. Blood trickled down his chin. My heart sank into my boots. I wanted to throw my rifle across the desert and somehow appear back home, but Grandpa didn't flinch the way they expected. He straightened his back, turned toward the camera, and announced every name, every face, every detail of the assault. And then he tapped his cane 3 times on the wooden porch. It looked random to the men in black vests, but I knew better. That signal wasn't for them. It was for the 5 former SEALs who lived within 2 miles of his cabin, the men who had sworn to protect him like he once protected them. At that moment, I felt useless. I was across the ocean watching my grandfather bleed on a shaky live stream while wannabe cops pushed him around. My chest ached with guilt. Maybe he should have sold the land months ago when Devlin Insurance made that lowball offer. Maybe if I'd convinced him, none of this would have happened. For a split second, I thought maybe giving up would have been easier. But then, I saw the viewer count explode. 7,300, 805,000 veterans, neighbors, strangers flooding the feed, calling 911, sharing hashtags, #justice for Walter, #elder abuse. My doubt turned to fire. If I couldn't be there in person, I'd rally an army online. And meanwhile, on the ground, Grandpa's real backup was already on the move. Marcus Reynolds was the first to arrive, pulling up in a beat-up pizza van. He walked up the porch holding a box like it was any other delivery. "Large pepperoni for Mr. Walter?" he asked with a smirk. Frank snarled, "This is official HOA business. Get lost." Kyle puffed up swinging a cheap electric baton. Marcus didn't even blink one clean hook to the jaw, and Kyle crumpled to the deck, his teeth scattering like dice. Frank lunged with a steel baton, but Marcus twisted his wrist until bones cracked, then drove a knee into his ribs. Frank dropped wheezing like a crushed accordion. Rick, panicked, tried to bolt for their SUV, but Jake Patterson, fresh from his morning run, intercepted him with a perfectly placed punch that shattered his nose. Within 2 minutes, the 3 fake officers were rolling on the porch, bleeding and groaning. Danny Sullivan and Kevin Walsh swept in next, securing the scene like professionals. Kevin, a combat medic, checked Grandpa's wounds while Danny searched the imposters. That's when the real horror came out: a clipboard with addresses of other elderly residents, a memory card labeled Devlin Security Operation Number 47, and a Bluetooth earpiece still transmitting. Danny held it up and a cold woman's voice hissed through, "Phase 1 has failed. Initiate Phase 2. Eliminate all witnesses." Her name was Clara Devlin. Former CIA, now CEO of Devlin Insurance Group, a polished predator in a black business suit. She wasn't after a few property fines. She was orchestrating a massive land grab, paying off HOA presidents to invent violations using fake security teams to intimidate seniors, and flipping land sitting on the proposed route of a billion-dollar highway project. My grandfather's cabin sat on a choke point worth $500 million. To Clara, he wasn't a person, he was an obstacle. For a while, the weight crushed me. From Afghanistan, I read reports of other families, veterans, cheated widows, harassed homes stolen for pennies. Kevin found out his own wife had lost their ranch while he was deployed, tricked by fake fines until she sold for a fraction of its worth. I felt like I was drowning. The system was rigged. HOA boards, sheriffs, even an FBI agent were on Clara's payroll. What chance did one old man and a handful of veterans have? But Grandpa refused to bow. He turned his morning coffee live stream into a weapon. Every day at 9:15, he'd share a new story, a widow who lost her home, a fake citation letter, a shady payment trail. His subscriber count exploded. Strangers became investigators. Reporters swarmed. Hashtags trended. The truth clawed its way into the spotlight. Clara tried to smear him, paid bots, fake witnesses edited clips. But the more she attacked, the louder people rallied behind him. The tension snapped at a packed HOA meeting. 200 neighbors filled the community center. TV crews lined the walls, and Clara strutted in like she still ran the show. She delivered her rehearsed speech about community standards and misunderstandings, even suggesting Grandpa was senile. Then, Walter stood up, cane in hand, and played a recording, Clara's own voice threatening him months earlier. Her mask cracked. Gasps filled the hall. Our lawyer, Alex Hartman, projected slides, bank transfers, emails about health interventions, charts linking Devlin Group to 8 corrupt HOA boards. People shouted, demanded answers. And Grandpa delivered the line that broke the room. "You say, I have PTSD. Clara, you're right. Post-traumatic seal disorder. It means I never forget how to deal with threats." The place erupted. Clara, flushed red, trapped in her own web. Before the night ended, residents voted her out 191-0, and then the FBI walked in warrant in hand. Clara screamed about her senator father, but the cuffs clicked anyway. Her cronies, sheriff agent, HOA presidents were all rounded up. For the first time, it felt like justice might actually land. But Clara wasn't finished. At 3 a.m, her hired killers came 6 ex-Blackwater contractors led by a Russian mercenary creeping through the forest with night vision and suppressed rifles. Their orders were simple: erase Walter Graves and every witness. What they didn't know was that the cabin had been transformed into a fortress. Motion sensors, tripwires. Cameras, escape tunnels, every inch mapped and rehearsed by men who'd survived real war zones. When the mercenaries reached the tree line, Jake Patterson had the leader in his crosshairs. "Contact 6 targets," he whispered. Permission to engage, Marcus answered without hesitation. One shot cracked the night, and Victor Clove dropped dead before he hit the ground. Chaos followed gunfire, slicing through the dark flashbangs, erupting, mercenaries scattering. The veterans moved like ghosts, silent, precise, relentless. Within 15 minutes it was over. 3 captured, 2 wounded, 1 dead. In their gear, we found everything: encrypted phones, GPS for other planned hits, emails from Clara herself, promising $1 million bonus if no witnesses survived. That was the nail in the coffin. Clara's empire collapsed overnight. 35 years in federal prison. Assets seized, victims compensated. Her senator father disgraced the highway project, scrapped laws rewritten to protect seniors from HOA abuse. And my grandfather, the man they tried to humiliate with a slap, stood taller than ever, his morning live stream reaching hundreds of thousands who now saw him as proof that courage doesn't expire. Clara thought she could break an old man with fake badges and fear. Instead, she exposed her entire empire to the world. And I learned something watching from afar, powerless until I wasn't. Sometimes all it takes is one person who refuses to bow, one voice that says enough, and a few friends willing to fight back. Never underestimate the strength of someone who has nothing left to lose.